Guys, we're talking about sound waves. Just to review, we are going to describe properties of sound waves, explain how sound is produced, describe how sound waves behave in applications such as ultrasound and music, and then explain how relative motion determines the frequency of an observer or of sound an observer hears, and then analyze the functions of the main regions of the ear. All right, also my handwriting is really bad, so bear with me. So, sound waves, they are a longitudinal wave. Okay, so we are going to have our compressions and our refractions. We know about speed from the last chapter and that it is wavelength times frequency, but we should also remember that it is distance the wave travels divided by time. So keep that also in mind. Now remember that the wave depends only on the medium. So how fast or slow a wave moves depends only on the medium. And if the medium is air, different temperatures of air can have different speeds. So we start talking about intensity. Intensity is the rate at which a wave's energy goes through an area. So we'll say travels. Because I don't have much space, I will post the easier filled in notes online, but just kind of listen as we go. So we use a decibel as the unit of intensity. Okay, so a decibel is our unit that measures intensity. It also kind of tells us another property that we look at is loudness. Okay, this uses a property called resonance, okay, to give different intensities. Okay, so our loudness is using different intensity levels. Okay, so as the intensity increases, loudness increases. So they are directly related. Okay, so intensity increases, loudness increases. Now we remember frequency as the number of cycles. Wow, this is really bad. Per second. Okay. Pitch is what we get when we change frequency. It's how we perceive frequency. So I'm just not going to write the rest of it. I'll post the other notes online. So pitch is our perception of frequency. So if we increase the frequency, we increase the pitch. If we decrease the frequency, we decrease the pitch. And then we have ultrasound, which again uses our longitudinal waves. Okay, this measures shapes and distances based on sound waves. Essentially, what ultrasound and sonar do is they send waves out, and then those waves are bounced off of the object that they're trying to find, and those waves then are reflected back. Remember, we talked about reflected in section 17.3. Those waves are reflected back, okay, and so we can kind of tell how far away something is and the shape of it based on how those waves are reflected back. Then we look at the Doppler effect. Now the Doppler effect is pretty important, okay, because it is a change in frequency that is caused by motion. So essentially, whatever is making a noise makes the same pitch, the same frequency, but because the detector is moving, it causes the pitch to change based on how you hear it. So it causes a change in frequency due to motion. So as the source approaches, our frequency goes up and wavelength goes down, right? Because those are inversely proportional. That's supposed to be that lambda symbol. As the source moves away, the frequency goes down, lower pitch, and the wavelength goes up. Okay? And so what this kind of looks like is if we have a person, they are not going to be hit by the car, right? the car is just traveling. They're a rather large person. And that car is sounding off its horn, making sound waves. Okay, and so each line is going to represent a sound wave. If the car is going towards the person, okay, those sound waves are going to get closer and closer together because essentially it's going to start pushing them near each other. That's it. The motion is pushing those sound waves closer to each other. Okay? But if we have a person behind the car, okay, the sound waves are going to get longer and longer. Right? Because essentially the motion is stretching the sound waves away from the person, and it is like compressing the waves more as it goes towards the person. So if you just want to kind of think through that a little bit, the Doppler effect, going towards something, the frequency gets higher, meaning the pitch gets higher because we are pushing those sound waves together. As you go away from a person or the thing that is listening to the device, it gets quieter. Now, an example of this would be if you've ever been to the races, if you notice the cars kind of make that sound where they sound really high-pitched coming towards you, and then their pitch drops as they go away from you. Now, really, they're making the same pitch the entire time they're moving, okay, but that pitch changes as it comes towards you and away from you. All right. Then we look at parts of the ear. Now, again, this will be a lot more clear, so I'm not going to write anything on my other set of notes that just has the words written down for you, okay? There is value in just listening to my voice, so please keep listening. We have three main parts of our ear, okay, and they're not highlighted on this, but I will highlight them. We have the outer ear, okay, which is like your ear, the ear part that you see, the ear canal, okay, those parts. And then we have our middle ear, which is essentially from the eardrum all the way through the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Okay, so those four parts are our middle ear, okay, and then, and then if we go over, okay, looking at the inner ear, that would be the semicircular canals and the cochlea. That nerve is coming out, that goes to the brain. The nerve is how it travels to the brain. So just so we're aware of that. So essentially, now this part is what you're going to want to be listening to. The sound, okay, is funneled in by the ear in the outer ear. So the outer ear funnels the sound through the ear canal, vibrating the eardrum, okay? The eardrum then contains three bones, or not the eardrum, but it has the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. And those allow the vibrations that the outer ear funnels in to be transferred into the inner ear. Okay, so we take the eardrum and the middle ear, which contains the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup, allows our sound to be traveled through the inner ear, through vibrations. We're transferring those vibrations into the inner ear, which is the cochlea. Okay, and the cochlea sends vibrations into nerve cells, or converts vibrations into nerve cells, and those nerve cells, the nerve transfers them to the brain, changing them into electrical impulses. So the brain actually reads our sound as electrical impulses, not as vibrations of sound. So just keep that in mind. All of this explanation is on the other set of notes, so just check through that and fill that in. Okay, sound. Sound is recorded by converting sound waves into electrical signals that can be processed and stored. So essentially, every time we record sound, okay, we are recording the sound waves and then changing them into electrical signals, and then we have ways to process and store them. Okay, sound is reproduced by converting those electrical signals back into sound waves. A lot of times there is magnets and magnetic wire that can cause those vibrations to then be produced throughout. So if you ever look at those big speakers, or even your little ear headphone speakers, you'll see that there should be some sort of small magnet in there and some sort of wire. The wire causes the magnet to vibrate based on those electrical signals, and that vibration sends sound waves out, which you are able to hear. Okay, musical instruments, they can vary pitch by changing, that word is supposed to be changing, the frequency of the standing waves, okay, by changing the length of the column that they're in. So every different columns, different tubes, right? So when we talk about columns and tubes, we're talking about different instruments like a flute or a clarinet or a saxophone, a trumpet, a trombone. All of those require air to be blown through some sort of tube, and by changing the length of the tube, you can change the pitch. Now, on a trombone, that would be sliding that end piece in and out, but on a flute or a clarinet, a saxophone, a trumpet, all of those kinds of instruments, you change the length of the tube by pressing down buttons. And so it's the different buttons that you press that cause different pitches that we hear, different notes, right? A pitch is a note. So the reason why we change the length, what we do to change the length, is it changes where resonance occurs, so where we can actually hear it. And so resonance is just a response of a sounding wave to another wave, which amplifies the wave, essentially, or the sound. So if you guys remember when we were demonstrating with the Slinky, okay, my first wave pulse that would go from me to Pooja wasn't very big. It was a pretty small wave, okay? As they kept bouncing off of Pooja and I kept sending more waves through, they continued to get larger, okay? So resonance essentially just makes waves larger. It makes the sound larger. It makes light brighter. It makes the waves bigger. It is constructive interference. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. Please check the uploaded 17.4 notes so you can get the filled-in version that is not as crappy as my handwriting on here. Hope you have a great day.